Consider a widely held belief in American professional life. If you have a stable job, pay your bills on time, and haven't defaulted on any loans, you are financially safe. This belief is the foundation of modern middle-class financial identity, and according to federal data, it is increasingly misleading. Let's examine the baseline. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, real average hourly earnings have increased by only 4.7% since 2019, despite cumulative inflation exceeding 20% over the same period. Wages have grown, but purchasing power has not kept pace. Yet, lifestyle expectations have. The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, SCF, reports that the median retirement account balance for households aged 35 to 44 is roughly $45,000. At current savings rates, this is insufficient to replace even a modest income in retirement, a fact the U.S. Census Bureau highlights in its data on retirement readiness, where nearly half of working-age households have no retirement savings at all. When we say financially trapped, we are not referring to poverty. We are describing a structural condition defined by four characteristics: high income but low net worth, gross earnings are high, but accumulated assets are minimal, lifestyle locked to paycheck. A reduction in income would immediately compromise housing, transportation, or education. Hidden dependency on continuous employment. There is no margin for error, no buffer against job loss, illness, or market downturn. The following traps are not about obvious mistakes. They are normalized, responsible-sounding decisions that quietly erode wealth. 2. The traps. Trap 1. Lifestyle inflation lock-in. What it is: the automatic increase of expenses to match every increase in income. Why it feels safe: it is socially invisible. New car payments, larger homes, and private school tuition are perceived as normal milestones. The mechanism: as income rises, marginal propensity to consume approaches 1. Savings rate remains static or declines in real percentage terms. Numeric example: a professional earning $60,000 saves 5%, $3,000. They receive raises to $90,000 but maintain a 5% savings rate, $4,500. While savings increased nominally by $1,500, the savings rate failed to scale. Over 20 years, assuming a 7% real return, the failure to increase the savings rate by just 5% of the additional income, $1,500 per year, results in a net worth loss of approximately $65,000. Trap 2. The stable job dependency trap. What it is: structuring one's entire financial life around a single W-2 income stream with no diversification of income or emergency liquidity. Why it feels safe: corporate employment is culturally coded as stability. Steady direct deposits mask fragility. The mechanism: high fixed costs relative to income create a fragility multiplier. A layoff: the average American worker experiences 5 to 7 layoffs in a career, per BLS tenure data. Forces liquidation of assets at market lows. Numeric example: household A relies on one $120,000 income. Household B has dual incomes totaling $140,000, but fixed costs 15% lower relative to income. After a 6-month layoff, household A burns through $40,000 in savings and incurs $10,000 in high-interest debt. Over 10 years, household A's net worth growth is permanently suppressed by $150,000 due to these disruption cycles. Trap 3. Mortgage overextension. What it is: using the maximum pre-approved amount to purchase a home, equating affordability with the ability to make the monthly payment. Why it feels safe: real estate is considered a prudent investment. Leverage is encouraged. The mechanism: high housing costs consume capital that would otherwise be deployed into diversified, liquid assets. It converts flexibility into forced equity. Numeric example: investor A starts at 25, invests $10,000 per year for 10 years, $100,000 total, then stops. Investor B starts at 35, invests $10,000 per year for 30 years, $300,000 total. Assuming 7% annual return at age 65, investor A has $1.38 million. Investor B has $944,000. The delay cost $300,000 in contributions and resulted in a $436,000 lower ending balance. Trap 4. Retirement delay trap. What it is: deferring serious retirement contributions until the 30s or 40s, citing competing priorities, childcare, mortgage. Why it feels safe: there's a cognitive bias that there's plenty of time. The early years of a career feel like the hardest years to save. The mechanism: the exponential nature of compound interest means the first decade of investing provides a majority of end value growth. Numeric example: investor A starts at 25, invests $10,000 per year for 10 years, $100,000 total, then stops. Investor B starts at 35, invests $10,000 per year for 30 years, $300,000 total. Assuming 7% annual return at age 65, investor A has $1.38 million. Investor B has $944,000. The delay cost $300,000 in contributions and resulted in a $436,000 lower ending balance. Trap 5. The good debt misunderstanding. What it is: justifying consumer debt vehicles, high-end goods, and extended student loans under the guise of necessity or good debt rhetoric. Why it feels safe: interest rates are psychologically anchored to mortgage rates, 3 to 4%, even when auto loans are 6 to 9% and credit cards are 18 to 22%. The mechanism: interest drag consumes a growing percentage of disposable income, reducing capacity for asset accumulation. Numeric example: a $50,000 vehicle financed at 7% over 6 years costs roughly $9,500 in interest. If that $9,500 had been invested at 7% over the same period, it would grow to $14,250. Over 20 years, the cumulative effect of financing depreciating assets can result in a $200,000 to $300,000 gap in net worth compared to minimizing consumer debt. Trap 6. Skill stagnation. What it is: remaining in a role for stability while market value for skills outpaces annual cost of living adjustments. Why it feels safe: job tenure is historically associated with loyalty and stability. The administrative ease of staying put feels lower risk. The mechanism: income plateaus while inflation and lifestyle costs increase. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA, shows that job switchers typically see wage growth 2-3x higher than job stayers. Numeric example: employee A receives 2% annual raises for 10 years on an $80,000 base, reaching $97,500. Employee B switches jobs twice, receiving 15% increases each time, reaching $150,000. Over 10 years, the cumulative income difference is $350,000. After taxes and spending, the net worth disparity is often $150,000 to $200,000. Trap 7. Social comparison spending. What it is: expenditures driven by the observed consumption of peers, vacations, children's activities, home renovations, rather than by intrinsic utility. Why it feels safe: it is justified as making memories or keeping up with the Joneses, a social norm documented extensively by Pew Research. The mechanism: it increases the burn rate without increasing net worth. It creates a rising baseline of expected expenses. Numeric example: an extra $500 per month on premium vacation rentals, dining, and children's extracurriculars over 15 years. At a 7% investment return, that $500 per month becomes $158,000 in foregone wealth. This is not discretionary spending. It is the cost of social conformity. Numeric example: a 401k match of 4% on a $100,000 salary is $4,000 per year in free capital. Over 10 years at 7%, that match alone grows to $55,000. Meanwhile, paying taxes on $10,000 of HSA-eligible expenses costs an extra $2,200 annually in federal tax. The cumulative loss of this trap over a decade is $80,000 to $100,000. Trap 8. The invisible tax trap. What it is: failing to utilize tax advantage structures for 401k, HSA, IRA, and leaving employer matches on the table. Why it feels safe: the money appears as higher take-home pay on a bi-weekly basis. The lack of immediate friction feels beneficial. The mechanism: paying marginal tax rates of 22 to 32% unnecessarily, while foregoing pre-tax growth and matching contributions. 3. The hidden math section. Let's model two individuals, person A and person B, both starting at age 30 with a household income of $80,000 in a median cost U.S. city. Both receive raises to $120,000 by age 40. We project their financial trajectory over 15 years until age 45. Person A avoids the structural traps, maintains a 15% savings rate, keeps housing at 25% of gross income, utilizes full 401k match and HSA, switches jobs once, increasing income by 20%, avoids car debt and social comparison spending. Person B falls into the normalized traps, maintains a 5% savings rate, purchases a home at 40% of gross income, leaves 401k match untapped, stays in the same role, receiving 2% annual raises, finances 2 new vehicles, and aligns spending with peer group. 15-year projection, age 30 to 45. Metric: person A, person B. Average monthly savings invested $1,200, increasing with income, $350 static. Total contributions $216,000, $63,000. Investment growth, 7% annualized, $145,000, $42,000. Net worth, investments plus home equity, $480,000, $175,000. Retirement income projection, age 65, $75,000 per year, inflation adjusted, $24,000 per year, inflation adjusted. Debt to income ratio, 15%, 42%. At age 45, person A has a net worth nearly 3x higher than person B, despite having similar peak incomes. Person B is in the top 10% of earners by income, but the bottom 30% by net worth for their age cohort. The difference is not income. It is the accumulation of structural traps. 4. Real-world friction. None of this occurs in a vacuum. The critique of personal responsibility ignores structural realities. In high-cost states like California and New York, housing at 25% of gross income is often impossible, requiring residents to fall into Trap 3, mortgage overextension, or Trap 1, lifestyle inflation, simply to remain in the labor market. Similarly, child care costs in the U.S. average $15,000 to $25,000 per child annually, per BLS data. This forces high-earning professionals into Trap 4, retirement delay, and Trap 5, good debt, medical expenses from chronic conditions or unexpected layoffs. The BLS reports that 7% of workers experience involuntary job separation annually, can force liquidation of assets, compounding Trap 2, stable job dependency. These traps are not personal failures. They are structural pressures embedded in the American economic system. However, acknowledging the friction does not negate the math. In fact, it makes the math more urgent. The traps apply because they are structural. They are the default path. Avoiding them requires intentional deviation from the norm. 5. Final synthesis. These traps do not feel like mistakes. They feel like normal life decisions. A mortgage is normal. A new car is normal. Waiting to save is normal. Staying at a stable job is normal. This is what makes them dangerous. They are socially reinforced, institutionally encouraged, and financially devastating. The data from the Federal Reserve, BLS, and Census Bureau tells a consistent story. The median retirement account for a household approaching 50 is insufficient. The median net worth for high-income earners often fails to reflect their earnings. The gap between income and wealth is widening not because of the lack of income, but because of the invisible structural leaks that occur between the paycheck and the balance sheet. Most financial struggles in your 30s and 40s are not caused by how much money you make. They are caused by the structural architecture of American life, which incentivizes present consumption over future optionality, normalizes leverage, and rewards inertia. If you are in this demographic and feel financially fine, but cannot articulate exactly where your wealth is accumulating, you are not stable. You are liquid, but you are not secure, and liquidity without structural protection is just a delay before the trap closes.